A vote is being held today in Washington on a resolution to give the House Judiciary Committee the power to enforce subpoenas. This is House Democrats continue to discuss proceeding with the impeachment of President Trump. Here to talk about this is Travis County GOP Communications Director Andy Hogue and Glenn Smith from Progress, Texas. Glenn, what impact will this vote have going forward?
Well, I think they just need the additional enforcement backing for the subpoenas they've already issued out of various committees of the House. I think it's the right thing to do. It's sort of a procedural thing, if you ask me. The Congress has the right to subpoena and the right to hold people accountable if they don't honor those subpoenas. And I think it's just another step in getting on with the investigation. And I actually think people like Bill Barr and others are going to do more to comply than they've done so far. None of them want to be held in contempt. None of them want to be jailed for contempt. So let's get on up and do the public's business and testify before Congress. They claim they have nothing to hide.
Andy Hogue, what's your take on the impact of this vote?
Yeah, well, if you remember back at the Bill Clinton impeachment proceedings, I think if we look back on it, ask the average Texan what they think of that drama, that was a waste of time. It ended up doing absolutely nothing. The Senate was obviously not going to go for it, so it was just the House passing the measure, and that was the end of it. So if they want to spend all this time on a resolution for subpoenas and whatever is next on the procedural ladder, we'll go right ahead, but I don't think it's going to make a difference at the end of the day except for securing a few Democratic votes in 2020.
Glenn Smith, talk about the timing of all this investigation going forward. Then there is impeachment out there, and then we're going to have a presidential election coming up after that. How's this going to work out? What do you think?
My view, and I might be in a minority among Democrats on that, it's just a question of how they conduct the investigations. What's the best way to conduct the investigation? Impeachment is kind of a scare word. And people think it's a dramatic step, but if it's used just as an investigatory procedure, maybe it's the best one, maybe not. The question of timing is an easy one, is an interesting one, regardless of whether they do formal impeachment proceedings or not, because the investigation's bound to be going on through the rest of this cycle, whatever route they choose. And let's see what kind of impact on the election the revelations have.
Andy, do Republicans want the Democrats to skip the investigation and go straight to impeachment?
Well, of course we do. It's more of a waste of time. It's more just stuff getting in the way between the Congress and doing the people's work. And right now, let's face it, this is political. And so I think we ought to just wrap it up and get it over with. We know everything that there's to be known already. And while I agree with my friend Glenn that there does need to be a proper procedural approach to this, that ultimately this is already signed, sealed, and delivered. Let's just get on with business.
Glenn, Nancy Pelosi has said no impeachment for political reasons. Do you think she's going to change on that?
I don't think she's going to change on that, and I agree with her. I mean, impeachment is a legal proceeding that Congress is empowered by the Constitution to pursue. If facts call for them to pursue it, they should. And there's a lot of people that don't like Donald Trump, including me. I think he's a disaster, to use one of his favorite words. But I don't think you impeach people because you don't like them. I think the facts have to justify it, and I think that's where Speaker Pelosi is, and I agree with her.
Yeah.
Andy, this morning the President Trump tweeted that this was presidential harassment. What do you say to that?
I should have read Twitter today. But honestly, with Speaker Pelosi, you never know. We might have to pass the resolution before we can read what's in it, so we'll see what she comes up with.
All righty. So at this, Glenn, do you think there's going to be an impeachment proceeding or not?
I don't think there's going to be, but that's just my judgment. It's up to the Speaker and the other leadership of the House to see what they do. But like I said, I think it is a question of the best investigatory tools. It's not a question about whether they send this off to the Senate to be the jury for an impeachment proceedings, because I think that would go nowhere. So it's all a question of what do they need to do to get on with the investigation in the best possible way to uncover as many facts as can be uncovered so the people of the United States can make their judgment.
Andy Hogue, yes or no, do the Democrats go for impeachment?
They're going to go for it, absolutely. They have nothing to lose, everything to gain. I think Trump's going to sweep it in 2020, but they've got to make gains in Senate races, House races. So, yeah, they need all the ammo they can get, especially in swing states like Texas and wherever.